All right. Next up, we have two speakers from the Natural Resources Defense Council talking about the American Cities Climate Challenge. Our first speaker is Betty. They'll be sharing a session, but Betty Seto is the network manager for ACCC, and Wendy Lee is the policy advisor there. So Betty and Wendy, let me know when you are ready to share your presentation.
Great. Yes, I'm ready. Let's see.
Great.
Okay, does that look right?
And you're a little bit faint, so maybe
Okay,
speak up a little bit.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, a little bit. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. It's really great to see so many familiar faces and names. I'm Betty Seto, and I'm here to share a little bit about a project that I've been working on for the last, I think, year and a half, along with my colleague, Wendy Lee. So we're working with cities across the nation through the American Cities Climate Challenge. I think many of our cities have heard of this program. And so like many of you, the cities across the country are facing a myriad, set of challenges due to COVID, racial injustice, and serious budget shortfalls, which impact our energy efficiency and decarbonization efforts. So I think the key question at this time is, how do we keep these building-specific actions, top of mind, relevant in this time, especially when climate issues are more pressing than ever, as we all know. So just in brief, what is the American Cities Climate Challenge? Its goal is to accelerate and deepen city efforts related to climate mitigation, and it has an emphasis on good jobs, cleaner air, and cost savings. So Eden from San Francisco talked a little bit about the municipal work group and how one of their focus areas is looking at the economic impacts of public investment as being as important as the technology selection. So Wendy and I wanted to share a little bit about what our cities are doing, both on the energy efficiency and decarb side, but also starting to tee up this conversation around economic inclusion and how do we help cities to leverage their significant procurement power to promote good jobs and an equitable economic recovery, which we know is what's really top of mind for our city leaders today. So just in brief, the American Cities Climate Challenge covers 25 cities across the US, and the program deliberately selected a diverse set of cities in blue states, red states, Republican mayors, Democratic mayors, and cities that are earlier in their climate and building energy efficiency decarb journey, and then also many climate leaders like our cities here, and San Jose is certainly one of them in our cohort of cities. So in terms of what the American Cities Climate Challenge focuses on, we've put our building and energy actions into 3 buckets: foundational, ambitious, and moonshot types of actions. So you'll see that most of our municipal actions are in the first bucket of foundational, focusing on energy, basic energy efficiency and retrocommissioning of municipal facilities. We also support our cities with municipal on-site solar procurements, as well as workforce development programs. And as I was thinking about the Z&E programs in the Bay Area, I think the City of San Leandro's Zero Net Energy Center is probably a really good example of that. Where they've married continuing education and apprentice programs in their Z&E project. So, the foundational actions are really important, and we're also, spanning across to the moonshot actions where a lot of our decarb efforts are focused a little bit more on the community side of things. But overall, we are looking at how cities should be thinking holistically about energy efficiency and decarbonization as part of an overall strategy, including procurement processes. So when we're talking about energy retrofits, equipment replacement, or even RFPs for new construction, how can we support programs that dovetail with the broader city goals related to economic development and equity? So that's just a brief overview. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Wendy to give you a little bit more of the details.
Thanks, Betty. So we have a kind of complex support system for our cities. And the cities are essentially the central hub of all of our action here at the Climate Challenge. We have a climate advisor who sits in the city, hired through the Climate Challenge specifically. We have technical support that comes from NRDC and our partner delivery associates. We have equity support and advocacy from several partners that we have on the Climate Challenge. And what we specifically do with municipal buildings as far as decarb includes everything you see in that right column: energy efficiency upgrades. We talk about on-site renewable procurement, as well as helping plan out roadmaps for building decarb. And a couple of our big partners are the Building Electrification Initiative and New Buildings Institute. Next slide. So I thought I would choose two specific city examples from out of our 25 cities that are working on building decarb. They're kind of two different examples. One is in San Diego, so it's, you know, California West Coast. They're currently working on a net zero energy policy for municipal buildings, new construction, and specifically working with New Buildings Institute, the partner that you saw on the previous slide, to kind of do an inventory and roadmap of their building stock to see how they can get, with very specific steps, get from where they are now to net zero energy. And they're doing that in conjunction with a bunch of other projects like microgrids. They're trying to retrofit one of their libraries to NZE. So they're doing some innovative stuff, but it's interesting that they're doing that alongside of this plan for new construction as well. And then we move to the middle of the country in Minneapolis, where they're also considering a, they're calling it a sustainable building policy that includes some net zero energy. And what they're doing with NBI specifically is looking at different building categories and models to kind of see how much it would cost for people to do net zero energy. And Minneapolis, that one is interesting because it's not just municipal buildings, it's any city funded project. So anytime a project has any kind of city money involved in it, it would have to follow this sustainable building policy. So there's a kind of two of the cities that we work with across the Climate Challenge. And then, as Betty mentioned, we do want to talk about equitable economic recovery. And this has been kind of a new thing for 2020. We've really leaned into trying to understand how our climate work intersects with equity and how we can work with our sustainability departments to really push and leverage a government role to shape supply and demand. And as Betty mentioned, you know, it can go everything from direct spending procurement to regulations to incentives. We are exploring workforce standards with Inclusive Economics and Emerald Cities Collaborative. Right now, what our cities are doing, from what I've heard, is including procurement standards within their policy to say something like, you know, you get points for being a minority business or small business, some sort of inclusion mandate within their policy. Other cities are providing more support for RFPs, so they're trying to even out, level out the playing field for really, really large RFPs, which can be really hairy to tackle on, you know, the paperwork side and understanding that process. And so they're providing some support for smaller businesses, some mom and pop shops, to be able to really bid for some of the bigger RFPs, or chopping it up into smaller pieces so that more smaller companies can have a opportunity. So that's what we're doing right now. And, you know, in the future, we'd really want to kind of dig our heels in a little bit more and start working with the economic development departments, procurement and legal departments. Those have all kind of, some of our cities, you know, sustainability staff have never worked with procurement or never worked with economic development. So that's kind of the next step for us. that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Betty and Wendy. We're now going to move into our second Q&A session. I'll go ahead and share the cover screen, and Sarah Baldwin will be moderating our discussion.